With us on High Bank Fury, I have Mark Garrow. I'm Roy J. Akers of SkyviewSports.net. Mark Garrow is the host of Garage Pass, but you even know him way more than that as the host of PRN. And Mark, that was quite a barn burner that we had in Phoenix, a very unexpected finish. What do you think?
Man, it was a hard one for me to get my hands around. On one hand, you have to give Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels, and that team credit for just hanging in there, never quitting, trying to wait for an opportunity. On the other hand, Denny Hamlin dominates the race and acted like a champion in the race, drove like a champion in the race, performed like a champion in the race. So I know what the rules called for, and I'm not saying that Kyle Larson did anything wrong, but it just left you feeling kind of empty at the end of the race, given the strong performance by Denny Hamlin and it coming up short by, a couple of laps after William Byron had a legitimate accident. There was a legitimate yellow flag. And so it just, I was left. Matter of fact, Mark Martin kind of liked my tweet when I said, I just don't know how to get my hands around this, because Kyle Larson did hang in there, but Denny Hamlin drove like a champion.
Yeah, I think you and I were congruent in that particular matter. And it was a total legit accident when Byron went into the wall when he cut a tire. I mean, he was in second place. He was 3 seconds behind Denny Hamlin. And if the accident would have happened 3 laps later, Hamlin would have been your champ, I'm sure. But that's what they call racing luck. And so that's the way it goes. Denny Hamlin talked about that, in the post-race press conference, and he says, hey, we had the best car. Denny, well, you did have the best car. I know you are a real man of courage out there coming out in front of the media today. What says you?
Kyle Larson has the trophy, but we dominated. We did our job. We did the best we could. They're a championship team and a championship driver, and they're going to win a hell of a lot more than just these two. But when everyone had to bring their best, I think it was evident who was the best today.
Mark, you heard Denny's comments. What do you say after Denny? He really stood there and took the bullet.
Well, he certainly stood up and again acted like a champion. He did everything but get the cup, get the title, and again, sometimes even in defeat, you have to show strength, and I think that's what Denny showed. And again, I've seen this happen many, many times before. I've seen Jeff Gordon have to accept a tough defeat in a championship battle, or miss the playoff and stand there and answer questions for 20 minutes why he missed the playoff. And again, stood there, answered all the questions, was a true pro through the process. And quite frankly, for Denny, I mean, I know that, over the course of time, some of this will get easier, but he's still got to be shell-shocked by what happened, because they absolutely did everything right, except at the end make the wrong call for 4 tires instead of 2, or even stayed out.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because most of the drivers, people think that, they had all kinds of time to think. No, they don't, everybody. These decisions were made in a thousandth of a second. They decided to take the 4 tires with just a 2-lap restart. It proved to be the wrong call. But what I also find interesting, you also said earlier in your answer that Kyle Larson, he won within the rules. He never led a lap all day. And while I like NASCAR's playoff format probably more than most, when you don't lead a lap all day, it's almost like eating a dirt sandwich. And
not only did you not lead, but you weren't the second best car. William Byron was the second best car, and you could make the argument that Larson was actually the 4th best, because at times Briscoe was outperforming him, but they couldn't keep tires on the car. Here's the problem, I think, for Denny Hamlin. Number one, the leader, right? You're always darned if you do, darned if you don't. So him coming down pit road was certainly a problem. The fact that they had the number one pit, if he had been anywhere else, I think that his crew chief would have had to go like, we better take two, be safe. But that number one pit sometimes allows you to gain positions with a 4-tire stop you would normally get if you were pitting up pit road or you were in a pack of cars. So I think that kind of worked against them a little bit as well. And again, toughest place to be at the end of a race in a situation like that is the leader. And the one thing that I thought they could have done, because his pit was so far down, it took him a long time to get there. There should have been enough information like going, hey, Larson's taken 2, this one's taken 2, and maybe they could have had time to switch their decision to go to 2-tire stop instead of 4. That's the only mistake they made. I mean, Chris Gale, amazing call throughout the race, made the right adjustments, had a great race car ready for Denny. And I don't even know if I would call it a mistake. It's just one of those things that sometimes you get caught with the right answer, and when you've done the right thing. You look at that restart where Denny started, he got bottled up. Kyle Larson just happened to be lucky enough that in front of him, who's he got? Teammate Alex Bowman, who bailed in the corner to let Larson get around him. He didn't hurt anybody else, but he definitely bailed for Larson. And I guess that's what you're supposed to do as a teammate. And unfortunately for Denny, he didn't have that kind of deal going on.
Now, at that final restart, Denny was in. He took the bottom row. He got blocked in there. He never had any chance to get any kind of momentum. Larson did pick up some interference on the final lap when I think the race was called at that particular point in that 2-lap restart. But Hamlin was he was fenced in by 3 or 4 cars. He really had nowhere to go.
He was looking. He had seen the video from the truck race where Corey Heim was deep in the pack, went to the bottom, 7 wide, somehow squeezed inside the wall and pops out, 5 positions better. Again, I think he saw that. There's definitely more room to move on the bottom than there is the top. He didn't want to kind of get boxed in that way, but unfortunately he got boxed in. Look, Denny Hamlin drove the race of his life.
He sure did.
He drove the race of his life when everybody else that had any kind of speed was basically ripping tires off and crashing or having to pit. Denny Hamlin never had those issues because the former late model driver knew how to be fast, take care of his stuff. And just think about Kyle Larson would have never even been there at the end. He has a tire problem. He goes down a lap, and what happens? We all talk about the caution at the end, but what about the one that after like 1 or 2 laps after Larson pits under green unscheduled, they get a yellow flag, he gets the wave around on fresh tires and is back in the ball game again. So Larson got not 1 lucky yellow, he got 2, my opinion.
Well, there you have it. With that, Kyle Larson's your champ under the NASCAR rules. I have a question for you on the other side of one. Everybody, this is Ultimate NASCAR Insider Mark Garrow of PRN Radio, and he also is the host of the Garage Pass. We are very blessed to have him on High Bank Fury. We're going to come back with that surprise question that I have. That's for you next.
Toyota has 3 NASCAR Cup teams, 2311 owned by these 2, but this guy actually races for his team. And they both share the track with the team owned by this guy. 3 teams, 4 legends, all going after 1 cup. Now you're up to speed. You in?
This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are followed multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today. Taking a look at the race winners, Mark, this season, that out of the 36 regular season races, they were 28 of the 35 were won by the super teams. 5 of the races were road course wins by SVG, leaving only 3 races for drivers that weren't in Team Penske, Team Hendrick, or Joe Gibbs Racing. Is it this next gen car was supposed to even things out? And I see cars are running deeper that are non, winning cars, but they're still not winning. What do you think?
Well, the bottom line is when this next gen came out, all those teams that were the non-big hitters, the non-Gibbs, non-Hendrick, non-Penske, they knew they needed to make hay while the sun shined right then. They all knew that once you keep this car, and it's got a very small box that these teams can operate in, but if you let Penske, Gibbs, Hendrick, and there are hundreds of engineers. You've got 4 or 5 on your team, and they have hundreds of engineers. Eventually, again, the difference between these cars only have to be a 1/10 to 1500ths of a second.
That's right.
And that'll be total domination, but it's not much. It's a very fine line. And the Michael McDowells of the world, the Ricky Stenhouse Juniors of the world, they all knew that in the first year or two of the next gen was the time for them to try to get on top and win some races, because they knew over time all the money, all the engineering would eventually allow the big 3 to operate inside that tight box a little bit better than everybody else. So the farther we get down the road, that's absolutely proven to be true, and I don't see that changing. I mean, these teams, like Michael McDowell said before the playoffs started, he said, we have a job to do right now. We have got to try to make up a lot of ground on these teams in the playoffs if we can. The problem is they're not standing still. So just as we catch them, we're almost there. They find something else and they move up to the next level. Those teams, the Spire Motorsports of the world, the Front Row Motorsports, to a certain extent, 2311 Racing, Legacy Motor Club, they are going to be chasing these guys all the time because they have the advantage in resources and engineering. And no matter how much help they get from a manufacturer or they get with some kind of side agreement working with some of these bigger teams, they don't have what they have. And, I'm not surprised by this at all. This is exactly what they said was going to happen when the next gen car came out. Year or two, we're going to see some upset winners, going to see some guys winning that we might not, because they hit on it one week and nobody else has what they have. Well, over time, everybody wound up having the same thing. And then they said year 3, year 4, the big boys are going to come back and rule the game. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah. The water seeks its own level. And no matter how you shuffle the cards, eventually the aces are going to come out on top. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. Mark Garrow, Ultimate NASCAR Insider from PRN Radio, also the host of an awesome podcast. I just listened to it earlier today. I got to keep up with you, so I got to do that. And of the Garage Pass, all you got to do is go to prn.com, I believe. And I was on there, and I try to check out different people. That's how you stay up in the NASCAR world, is be up with the people.
You got to keep working on your show here, because I've done 12,000 of those shows. So you got to work to catch up.
Yeah, it's funny. I have about 5,000 YouTube videos, but as far as doing this podcast, I've probably done 60. And plus, I do golf. I got an Annika Sorenstam coming on next week, and
oh wow,
yeah, I've had interviews with several goats. I've never talked to in NASCAR.
Who?
Richard Petty. Never talked to him. He doesn't come near the media center. And so
he talks to everybody, man. He lives 20 miles down the road from me. Next time I see him, I'll tell him you need to call Roy.
Yeah, well, that'll be awesome. Well, maybe all 3 of us will get going in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to finish up this particular episode, because we are going to be talking to Mark Garrow about his some elements of his career. You can't do 15 minutes justice for a guy like Mark Garrow, and we're going to have that for you next.
Incredible day, incredible scenes, and the 33-year-old from Elk Grove, California, Kyle